All right, good morning, everyone. It's 10:45 on Thursday, May 12th, our second to last lead meeting of the school year here. Thanks for joining us live. And also thank you to those that may be watching the recording of this week's meeting as well. Would also like to welcome Lisa Quidno, our latest employee here with Minnesota State High School League. Glad to have her as a fellow associate director. Lisa is joining us on lead, and you'll get to hear her voice shortly. Thank you to our liaisons who are invaluable to all of us. Know that what we share with you today is recommended by them, and the dialogue that we had earlier this week was outstanding. Coming off a busy week, congratulations to our robotics teams in the tournament. Well done by Amy Doherty and Amy Ince in our office and all those that made it possible for that tournament. Also, we'll talk about rep assembly that took place on Tuesday of this week. This is a great time to say thank you to all of our administrators and coaches, but let's not forget about those officials and judges. We know that our officials are not a luxury at this time, making sure that they have a working atmosphere that is conducive to allow them to do their job is very important. So our agenda here today, if we could go to that next slide, we're going to discuss the rep assembly. Eric will lead us through that. Charlie will update us on COVID guidance. I'll talk a little bit around definitions of the summer coaching waiver, along with the definition of summer, how it differs for our student athletes. Then we'll wrap things up here and give you an idea of what you should be looking for yet this year and also moving forward. So at this time, Eric, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about what took place on Tuesday, I believe this week, both around boys volleyball and bylaw 110. Eric, thank you.
Thanks, Bob, and good morning, everybody. Welcome to Lead here today. As Bob mentioned, the rep assembly meeting took place on Tuesday morning. And first and foremost, I want to thank all of our delegates for their service to the league, representing their regions and their member schools in their particular area, as well as the students and all of the programs that take part in that. Obviously, the number one item of most attention was boys volleyball, as the consideration as to whether or not to govern or sanction that within the Minnesota State High School League was discussed at quite a bit of length, quite actually over the last couple of years. And so it is an ongoing process and one to be considered, as we have a number of schools, and that number of schools that have boys volleyball is growing. But when you think about the rep assembly meeting and the process, it is one of the most organic processes that we have within the Minnesota State High School League. It's a great example of us being a member-driven organization and that we have representatives from across the state. It is truly our legislative body within the State High School League. And as such, there's some requirements and some aspects to that are important to remember and also significant in the way that things operate. So our proposals for any kind of amendment come from our member schools or from our board, which again are most often representatives of our member schools. And so that's where these proposals come from. They're not always the place where the most energy comes from, but that's where it does start. And then it goes through our regions, and each one of you through your regions had an opportunity to be part of the discussion and ultimately make a vote as to whether or not you support these things moving forward. So with boys volleyball, that one passed at a 9-7 margin in our regions. So we could all anticipate that it was going to be a very tight vote when it got to the representative assembly. So want to make sure that we recognize that. But as we have these meetings as a league, we are required to operate according to the open meeting law, just like your school boards are and those kinds of groups. And we understand that, and we have to work through those processes. The large group of folks who came in support of boys volleyball that were in attendance were largely respectful. And for those that were not there, to watch the young men who participate in boys volleyball and their support for it, their enjoyment of it, and then their addressing to the assembly of what a difference this has made in their lives, how important it is, and how much they want to be able to represent their schools, I think was significant and dramatic. At the same time, as we hear from other speakers or as our delegates got emails or things like that, they're not always as complimentary. They're frustrated, they're upset, and they'll hear some things that we probably don't want to hear and probably shouldn't have to hear. But as we work through the process, our delegates did a great job. They break into caucus groups. No two people from the same region are in those caucus groups. So everyone stands on their own and has their thoughts and their information from their regions, and that's kind of brought forward within those caucus groups. And ultimately, we come back together and we take a vote, and it's a roll call vote. There's no hiding. We walk that through and we take the vote, and everyone can count along with it. In the end, with boys volleyball, it came one vote short of being approved. And I think that that's important to recognize and know that it was that close. And one vote away means one vote from being 2/3. It was well over 50%. I was asked about that afterwards, if that's the right percentage. And I said, I think that changing bylaw does mean that it should have more than a 51% approval, that there should be a significant majority that is in favor of it. And so that ultimately was what the decision was. Again, many thanks to our delegates for their time, for their investment, for taking emails that they received over the last few months relative to the vote, and to be able to manage through that. We also talked about bylaw 110, and that was approved unanimously by the Rep Assembly. And just a reminder that this was brought forward by an ad hoc committee taking a look at the eligibility and saying, how do we best navigate the number of years that a student participates within our activities, and move toward a national standard that has a number of 4 years for those starting in 9th grade. Minnesota is somewhat unique in allowing our 7th and 8th graders to participate in high school level activities. Many states say absolutely not until you become a 9th grader, but you can participate in 7th and 8th grade, but only for 1 year. So if you were to repeat a grade as a student, you would not have a second year at the high school level. And so just as a note, that one did pass forward, and you'll hear a little bit more about that as we move on. But special thanks to President Tom Jerome for managing that meeting and leading us through those processes, as well as Vice President Stein and Treasurer Jim Smokovich for being a big part of that process on Tuesday. Bob, it's quite an overview, but I know I missed a few things. Feel free to step in.
Yeah, no, well done, Eric, and the energy and passion that was shown towards Rep Assembly is a compliment to all of you. And Representative Assembly, each of our member schools have had an opportunity to voice their beliefs on these two bylaw potential changes, and I believe that's a good process. And thank you again to our delegates for your conviction on how you voted, representing every school in the state of Minnesota. So again, Eric, thank you for that update. Charlie, let's talk about where we're at in terms of COVID guidance.
Great, thanks, Bob. And as both Eric and Bob mentioned in referencing our delegates and being appreciative of the work that they do around recommending bylaw changes, our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee is another group of dedicated professionals who is working on our behalf to help our organization be successful. On this slide, I would point to the highlighted box that updates some of the Sports Medicine Advisory Committee's most recent recommendations for change. As you know, this group has met regularly throughout the pandemic to provide guidance to the league and to you as member schools on how to safely administer our activities during the pandemic. And we're thankful for that commitment from them. To summarize the more recent changes here, where schools would allow it, individuals may now participate in contests and games on days 6 through 10. There's still a mask requirement on days 6 through 10. And there is an exception to that. Should a student have a negative PCR or NAAT or antigen test during days 6 through 10, they would not be required to wear a mask. So again, we just continue to evolve with our guidance. We continue to have our medical professionals take a look at current situations, so things like recent COVID rates, evolving CDC guidance, the fact that our sports and programs and activities are now moving to outdoor settings, where physical distancing is greater and there's less likelihood of close contact during competition. So all these things come together. Our guidance continues to change, and this is our most recent publication. And with that, I can turn it back to Bob.
Good, thanks. Appreciate that, Charlie. And this information is relevant as we see things like Major League Baseball games being impacted and or canceled due to where we're at with COVID. And again, I too wish we were done with COVID, but be prepared, and that information is there if you need it. Coming out of liaisons and into liaisons, some different questions around what can happen with our summer coaching waiver period. This information is taken right from the handbook bylaw 200 on what the summer coaching waiver is. When you think about that summer coaching waiver, it's really access to student athletes given by you for our coaches. Think about coaches when it comes to that summer coaching waiver. But if you look at the next definition, on the definition of summer, if we could go to that next slide, notice who that is intended for. Really, our student athletes have some liberties on that fourth Monday in May versus our coaches and when they have access. We do get questions about this, that, or the other thing on that fourth Monday this year, a couple days before that June 1st, what they can and cannot do. So more than anything, be aware of that definition difference for the summer versus the summer coaching waiver, all of which is found under the bylaw 200 series. If I didn't miss anything there, Laura, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about participation numbers at this time.
Thanks, Bob, and good morning, everyone. A few things as we wrap up this school year and prepare for next school year. Monday, you received an update and an orange alert banner was put at the top of your AD dashboard that had 4 tasks on it. The first one is wrapping up this year, and that's completing participation numbers for your activities. The data that you provide as part of participation numbers is critical for a number of reasons. One of those is that it helps us best budget and prepare accurate numbers for concussion and catastrophic insurance. It helps us monitor trends in activities. It also helps us meet the needs we have of reporting to the NFHS. A few definitions and things around participation numbers. One is just a reminder of what that term unduplicated means. Unduplicated means that each student counts only once. That student may participate in 2, 3, or more activities, but that one body, that one student only counts as one person in an unduplicated count. We ask you for a total of 4 numbers in that unduplicated area. And again, these help to meet the requirements of reporting that we have. The first one is an unduplicated participant, and we ask for a male and female in that. Participants are anyone who participates in any MSHSL activity, be that basketball or football, be that fine arts, be that clay target. It's any of those students in any activities. These should be your largest numbers as it involves kids in any activity. The second set of unduplicated numbers are MSHSL athletes. These are numbers of students only in sports. So it's removing those fine arts students, removing those presented partner students if they are only in that. So this is truly a subset of that first set of numbers. There are a number of other criteria to consider. The grade of the students, notice that 7th and 8th graders count in one, but they don't in the other. And again, that athlete number is really around the insurance that we provide as a league for the students participating in your activities. This information, when you get to that alert, there are some how-tos and some worksheets for you to work through there. Please reach out if you have any questions on that. I can certainly talk through that with you and happy to do that. The second set of to-dos that were in that information are 3 things to prepare for next year. Your activity registration is due by May 27th. That's the Friday before Memorial Day. That's your opportunity to check off the activities that your school will be participating in next year. When you get to that form, you'll find the activities that you registered for last year already checked off. So you're really just double checking and making sure that that is the same. A reminder that this is an annual task, and any schools in a co-op, each school should register for that activity. It will tally your estimated dues number at the bottom. A reminder that that is an estimate at this time. The board will set final fees at their August meeting, and that's what you'll be invoiced for in August. So you'll see an estimate now. That is not a bill or an invoice. You will receive an invoice after that has been adjusted based on year-end budgets. The second piece is a membership resolution. That is that form that is completed by your school board or your school's governing body. That is due the end of July. That has an extended time on it because that does have to go to a board meeting. That information was also sent to superintendents and heads of school, as sometimes that's managed out of their office. So if they do contact you and say, I received this, do you know about this? Please work with them in whatever works best in your district. And then finally, fall supplies. Those again will be ordered by season next year to allow you to adjust and monitor as you go on. Please place that order by July 15th to make sure that we can have that in your offices by the start of activities. It is open now. If that works for you to register and order those supplies now, please do that. Again, that orange alert at the top of your dashboard has information on all 4 of these tasks. They do have some varying due dates on them, depending on when that information is needed. Want to give you as much time as we can to complete those, but also knowing that there are things that need to get put in place for that. With that, I'm going to turn it to Charlie to talk us through some quick takes and anything else that I might have missed on those, Charlie, and you want to do a little cleanup on.
Oh, you did well on those, Laura. Thank you very much. Just a few quick takes here today. The physical form has been updated, is posted, and it's available online on the league website. It can be accessed by school personnel, families, or physicians and clinics. However, it's best circulated in your community. It's there and ready for you. Thanks to the ADs, coaches, and judges that comprise and make up our dance rules committee. Recently, they met, reviewed proposals, and created recommendations that will be presented to the board of directors in June. Appreciate the dedicated work that was done there by those folks. Our spring tournaments continue as we have adapted bowling tomorrow, and we wish our state qualifiers the best of luck as they participate face-to-face at Bolero and Brooklyn Park all day tomorrow in the adapted bowling tournament. And then just finally, a reminder that there will be changes to the eligibility brochure based on the work of the ad hoc committee, the rep assembly, and the board of directors around bylaw and policy revisions in 110 and 111. So just you're going to need to be aware of those changes. We'll certainly point them out once those publications are ready, but know they're coming and be aware of them. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to our newest member of the executive staff here at the high school league, Lisa Quedno. So Lisa, welcome.
Thanks, Charlie. And I just wanted to say welcome or thank you for all the kind words and everyone helping me through the transition here. I'm excited to be working with each of you. I am going to go through a quick checklist as we get through spring. As many of you know, Mother Nature has not been cooperating with us greatly. So please make sure you're reviewing those weather policies for each of our sports. And then a reminder that activities administrators and officials, once a game contest is started, you are the people who are in charge of making those decisions on whether it needs to be suspended or not. With that, make sure you're checking on game ending procedures. Those sport-specific rules and policies you'll find on the website within each sport. A reminder that Laura touched on those activity registration due dates, member resolution due dates, and participation numbers needing to be in. And again, the eligibility brochure will be updated as soon as those processes are finished. And so that is something we'll send out when that is done. And then just be aware your competitive section placement will begin next fall. So start talking to your communities about those co-ops and other things that go along with competitive section placement. Thanks again for the great warm welcome. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Bob.
Yeah, good. Thank you. And welcome again, Lisa. Great job. We have had multiple reports today where people believe games were suspended. when actually they became a regulation game. So those game ending procedures, especially in baseball and softball, it feels like at this time of the year, make sure you're reviewing them, make sure coaches understand them as well. Also seeing reports from the storm damage last night impacting many of our facilities. We know that often is also placed on your shoulders. So if you did have homes and or facilities damaged, good luck with that, and stay safe as well tonight, as well as stay safe if you're chasing that elusive walleye this weekend with the opener. We need to see you back here next week, and our last lead meeting for the year will be Thursday, May 26th. Enjoy the rest of your day, play some games if you can, and we'll see you on Thursday, May 26th. Thank you.